Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of GovTech Advisors podcast. This episode has been a long time coming. And as you can see, my partner in crime, Jordan, is not with us today. There are some scheduling conflicts, but the guys at Judicial Innovations have some incredible things to talk about. Jarrett and Pat, thank you so much for being on the episode today.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate having us.
So I have to admit something. So a lot of people that listen to the podcast know that I'm born and raised in Atlanta, and your office is close to something that's very near and dear to my heart. I used to take my kids over to PDK and the airport over there all the time. The little playground that's over there, they loved it. The little restaurant that's over there, we constantly go over there for the weekends and just have a blast. So when I was doing some research on you guys, I was like, this is incredible. One of my favorite tea houses is like downtown Chamblee, so like hop, skip, and a jump. So I next time I'm up in Atlanta, I got to come by and just hang out for a little while.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How long have you guys been? Are you guys originally from Atlanta? Because I see the Maryland flag in the background. Did you guys, or why did you guys choose PDK in the Atlanta area?
So I'm born and raised in Atlanta, actually in Chamblee myself.
Oh, nice.
So one of the few left who have started out here and have never left. PDK is kind of home for me because I started at a young age at 14 years old flying helicopters, and progressed up and flew for the police department and also for the news here in Atlanta. Progressed through my flying career, started flying airplanes and jets. So everything about my whole world is airplanes and helicopters. So I've always kept my office here at the airport. So I'm very familiar with the playground and the downwind and all that stuff that you were mentioning. So
yeah. Well, I grew up in Gwinnett, so I used to spend a lot of time. I took my wife on a date flying a plane out of Briscoe. And so, I just thought it was super cool. And I like Googled it. I was like, I know exactly where their building is. So, all right, enough about all of that. Talk to me a little bit about you guys and your team and the team at Judicial Innovations and like what you guys are doing, because we've had a lot of different people on our podcast before in the past, but nothing quite like what you guys are doing. And more importantly, you guys are doing some incredible things for a very specific space that I think a lot of people will be excited to hear about.
yeah, sure. So as I said a few minutes ago, my background has been law enforcement here in Atlanta for 20 plus years. And I originally got my start in law enforcement, and my first company I started was a company where we privatized probation services throughout the Southeast. We were in 270 cities in Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. So probation has kind of been my roots in my private career world. When we started Judicial Innovations, we focused on the probation industry, providing software platforms to government agencies and private agencies who supervise probation to help manage their caseloads. Those case management systems most of them out there are falling behind in the technology arena, and they're very expensive. When I was in the probation business, one of the things that made us successful was the platform and the case management system we built and how sophisticated. Probation officer's job is extremely hard. Most of them manage, 200 or 300 cases. So you got to have something that will help you keep up with that. So we created a very sophisticated system, and at Judicial Innovations, we originally started out by providing that system to those government agencies for free in exchange for processing the payments. And the reason we did that is throughout my government career, both private and public, governments are always constantly being asked to do more with less. And in the probation world, I'm sure you can ask any probation officer, when it comes to asking for funding from a county commissioner, city council, they're pretty far down the list. And then when you say the word software, they go even further down the list.
Right.
So being able to provide them needed tools that they can walk into their bosses and say, hey, we really need this, and it's not going to cost us anything. all we got to do is turn over the payments business to them, which we're giving to somebody else anyway, and not getting anything out of it, is a win-win for all.
It's massive because I've had to pay some fines here and there. I've had to deal with the government from time to time in the local government, and being around years and years and years ago, trying to transact anything with, especially a local government, used to be incredibly difficult, and more and more and more, it's getting a lot easier. So I love, of course, paying my taxes, and that's easy. And then, resubscribing to something, but dealing with the court system has always been really, really difficult. I haven't had to deal with it in a long time. Let's knock on wood that I don't have to deal with them in the not too distant future. But, talk to me a little bit about like, what are some of the reactions that you get? Because what you guys are doing is also not only are you giving the court systems a great platform that's free, but you're also making it a lot easier for people that have to deal with the court systems, to make it so much simpler to deal with them, to almost make it, I won't say easy, but way easier than it used to be in the past.
So, yeah, so, as I said, our original platform to start the business was the probation side. And then we expanded into what we built a tool called online traffic resolution. And I think that's probably what you're referring to here more. And, at this day in the world, you can order your food from Publix on your phone. You can do everything remotely to make your life easier and more convenient. However, the court system has, been slow to catch on to that. This day and age, if you get a traffic ticket, you have one or two choices, right? You either pay it, or you go sit in a traffic courtroom to dispute it, and it takes up half your day, spend however much money on parking and things like that. And additionally, it's not very, I would say, accessible or fair to everyone. I'm not sure where you are at in your life, but I know in my life, if I get a traffic ticket and I have to go, deal with it at the courthouse, well, I can leave work. I can rearrange my schedule and I can make it. There are people in this world that don't have that luxury and are more strict on a work schedule, and bosses, requiring them to be there, and they have to choose, do I take off work and lose this money that I could use to feed my family or buy gas right now?
Sure.
Or do I just say, I just have to pay it because I don't have the ability to go deal with it?
Right.
So we call that almost access and fairness to justice. And so what this platform does, it allows anybody, no matter what situation you're in, whether you can get off work, can't get off work, or, quite frankly, time is everything, right? Time is your most valuable quantity in life. And this system will allow a person who gets a ticket to go on the platform, search their case, and start interacting with the court on their time schedule through our platform to try and, negotiate a deal, whether they're guilty or not. So the platform, you can go back and forth with the solicitor or the prosecutor, and once you reach an agreement between those two parties, and it would go to a judge, and he could see all the documentation and approve it, and then you would pay your fine online. That's all done. And, it's not that traditional Zoom court. It's literally, you go online, you plead your case by typing, upload documents, and then you go on about your day. And then a couple hours later, you may get a text message from the platform that says, hey, the prosecutor's reviewed your case and has made you an offer. And then you can go in there and accept or deny that offer. And if you accept it, it sends it to the judge. And then a few hours later, you may get another text message saying, hey, judge has reviewed the offer the prosecutor made. He's made modifications, or he's accepted it. You can log back on and complete your case. So you can do everything without leaving your job, your home. You can do it at 1 or 2 in the morning in your pajamas. So it's not so much to take I'm very cautious to say make it easy, because I feel like in law enforcement there is part of making things inconvenient sometimes is part of the punishment.
Sure.
However, there's also a very valid argument of, you know, people just, you know, are going to simply pay a fine, even though, you know, they need a deal or they thought they were not guilty, but they just don't have the luxury of going there.
Yeah. I mean, the fairness portion of it is incredibly powerful because, yeah, you're right. Right now, I set my own schedule. I work from home. The flexibility that I have and where I'm at in my life and career, I have an immense amount of flexibility. But a long time ago, and maybe when I was just starting my career or trying to start a career, I didn't have that flexibility. I couldn't take time off of work. And then more importantly, as you were kind of talking through this, it reminded me of a time when I got a ticket and I had to go deal with a court system out of state in rural Alabama because I was going to the Panhandle.
LA.
And yeah, so it's like, okay, so it's like, do I drive all the way? I was living in Gwinnett and outside of Atlanta. Do I drive all the way to Southern Alabama to go fight this thing, or do I just pay it and get it off my plate? And so having something like that would then allow me to be more flexible. But you know,
and give you the same rights to justice as the person living in that town.
Right. And listen, and we all know that there's the certain towns that, you know, the majority of probably the revenue that's coming from is tourists or people passing through. So, and I was that guy. So one of the things in the times that we're living in that strikes me, especially the application that you guys are talking about today. So we're talking about fairness and we're talking about accessibility. But a lot of times, a lot of these new technologies have cropped up for safety reasons. And so I'm sure that your platform, I'm going to assume, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure during COVID and during Corona that you saw probably a larger amount of adoption because it was a way to kind of interact without having to bring everybody into a packed courtroom, or not just exposing each other, but exposing our public defenders and the people that serve our government. I'm sure they didn't want to be exposed as well. So, I mean, talk to me a little bit about that.
So certainly you're right. This idea has been around pre-COVID. We're not the only people in this universe that are doing this. Our platform is designed a little different. Our business model is a little different. But the idea has been around, and you're right. It has been prior to COVID. It was a little hard sell. Going back to, you know, there's just ways of thinking among different courts. I've worked with 600 courts in my career, and I can honestly say that every one of them operates a little differently. Every one of them has a different mindset on, you know, what punishment is and what convenience is and things like that. So certainly when COVID came about and they couldn't operate court, and as you alluded to earlier, you know, a lot of these places, a lot of revenue is derived from, you know, traffic violations. You know, they had to figure out something. And, you know, the first out the go thought was Zoom court. And although Zoom has been helpful, if you've ever sat through one, it's pretty cumbersome. And, you know, if a case would take 4 minutes to get through in a regular courtroom, you know, in Zoom, it seems to take probably 3 or 4 times that long because it's very cumbersome, and it's hard to organize even though they give their best effort. So yes, a platform like this where literally a judge could, you know, get home at night and, you know, after dinner be able to pop his laptop up and dispose of 20 or 30 cases is very helpful.
Well, so when you're talking about cases, talk to me a little bit about what types of cases that you guys can support. Are there, I'm sure there's, you know, you're talking about criminal things that's not going to just go through and you upload a couple of documents. I promise I'm not guilty. And you're like, okay, but so talk to me a little bit about the types of cases that you can support within your platform. And, you know, are there ways to kind of expand that, or you maybe use it a little bit more uniquely?
So in our platform, there are many different types of cases that can be used for. There are certain segments of criminal cases that could be used for. However, with us, we've chosen to strictly just focus on traffic, mainly for the business model. Because the business model is we want to give this platform to you, the court, for free. We don't want you to have to pay anything. We're generating our revenue when that person processes their credit card payment and they pay a convenience fee like they do now. And it's no more expensive than if you just went online and paid your ticket. So we're not gouging people and trying to make more off the credit card fee than they'd already pay. So we focus on traffic because most traffic, there's a lot more traffic cases and there's a lot more fines associated with traffic cases versus sometimes criminal cases don't even have a fine. It's just jail time. So there are other platforms that focus on that, but for us, we've stuck with the traffic model so we can provide the software to government for free without having to charge them. And it, like I said, you have a $200 fine in our platform, to process the payment is going to be $10. You go to the city of Atlanta traffic court, you're going to pay $20 to park.
Right.
So
Right. Well, so talk to me about that, because that was one of the biggest questions I had because you did say that there's a lot of different platforms like you guys out there, but so is the thing that sets you guys apart is that the platform is free and that you're just existing off the processing fees, or is there also some other things that you guys might do differently than some of the other providers out there?
I would say there's there's a few keys that I believe make us different. One is obviously the business model of being free and just, we eat what we kill, so to speak. So the government, doesn't have to, like I said, they don't have to go to their city council person and beg for money for this platform. We've also set our platform up in a lot of these government software programs. When an agency decides they want to use a platform, there is a long lead time in those setups and dealing with data and things like that. For us, we built this platform almost like QuickBooks, where when you start a new company, you sign up for QuickBooks and you spend 20 minutes answering a bunch of questions and boom, 20 minutes later you have a set of books. That's pretty much what we've done here, where a lot of other companies may have a 3 or 4 week lead time. For us, if you're a court clerk and say, Jarrett, I love your product, I want it today, we can literally sit down with a laptop and answer these questions for an hour, and the system's ready to go, with the exception of us loading your specific forms in and any integration work. So where competition may take months to get you rolling, we can literally be up in a matter of a week or two.
Well, in knowing local government and state government, I'm sure they've just got infinite resources to pour and on implementation, and nobody has anything to do, right? So no, I mean that's great. And
real quick, I was just gonna say
go
that
ahead, Pat.
I would say that like our asynchronous communication is also like the third top thing that really sets us above some of these other places. The fact that these judges can go outside of their shift or middle of the night, morning, like everyone's dealing with their own, especially since more people are staying home. Everyone's dealing with more of their own issues, doctor's appointments, family time. So the fact that they can all communicate whenever and get things done on any person's time is something that really sets us above and beyond.
So that's really interesting. So you've got the solicitors, you've got the citizens that are on there, you've got the judges. I mean, who else can be part of the process to have that communication? I mean, how many different parts of the judicial system can you pull in there? Does it matter, or is there a limit to who can be part of the process?
Yeah, no, I would say that what you just mentioned are the important players. The court clerk or the court administrator is a big part of this as well. They may not be the one communicating with the defendant,
Right.
but they're within the platform and making sure everything is going as planned.
Right. And so let's say, Pat, from a judge's perspective, do they have an app on their phone, or do they just have do they have to log in on their computer and just kind of go through like email in order to kind of communicate back?
Yeah, so I mean, either way, our website and our platform itself can be used on your mobile device, on your computer, tablet, anything that you're connected to Wi-Fi. So no matter what, someone can have access to the same communication whenever, wherever. And that's the beauty of it.
Right. And I'm sure all the communications are tied to that case. So no matter if the judge is on there, the solicitor is on there, the clerk's on there, administrator, everybody's kind of collaborating. It's fascinating.
None of the details are hidden.
Yeah. It's a great depository. You were going there for documents, in a Zoom court setting, you got all this stuff flowing around, and, you got a clerk who's dealing with, there may be 10 people in the courtroom, and she's dealing with paperwork on one, and she's having to deal with the depository of documents after that session, where here, all the forms and everything's done as you go. And you have the court has a central depository for everything that happened at that case without burdening any extra work on them.
I mean, listen, we've all been in courts and we've all seen them with the stack of paperwork and the manila folders, that are just stacked sky high of all the different cases and the caseload and the casework that's going to be done that day. So, okay, that's interesting. So when I did some research on you guys, I dove in, but I didn't dive really deep. So how do you, with the document management, do you guys do any sort of do you partner with anybody that when you're uploading documents, are you doing any sort of OCR? Are you scanning anything? Are you making it easier to like search through those documents for the person that's going through the process or for the people on the back end as well?
Everything with the documents is created within the platform, signatures with, with either your mouse or your finger on your phone and things like that. There's not a huge search piece because, like you alluded to, it truly is, if a clerk needs a document for a particular case, she goes into that case and then the list of documents are there. It's very easy for her to pick, she knows what she's looking for. Right. But it's very simple, but all the forms are customized and auto-populated with the data that goes back and forth within the platform.
Sure.
While you're negotiating the case.
Yeah. So, and then, we talked a little bit at the beginning about the probation side. I mean, we're spending a lot of time on the traffic side. So, I mean, talk to us, or there's more that you wanted to dive into on the probation side, because I know that you guys are kind of affecting multiple different aspects of the court system. Pat, I'm probably going to ask a question that the answer is yes, but on the probation side of what you guys are offering, I'm sure you have that kind of asynchronous communication through who's part of that as well.
So on the probation side, it's a little different wheelhouse in that, the system is mainly used by the probation officer to keep case notes, appointment notes, all documentation relating to somebody's probation case that may span over a period of 6 to 12 months. What is unique that we've done within the probation platform that has made it, that I saw in my whole career, one of the biggest complaints, if you asked anybody who's ever been on probation, is I can't ever get a hold of my probation officer. And there's some truth to that, because not because they're lazy, but they're busy,
Right.
I have a hard time keeping up with myself. I can't imagine keeping up with 200 or 300 people.
Right.
But one of the unique features that we have added in it, there's an automated text feature where, probationers will get text message reminders of appointments. They'll get text message reminders of when payments are due. And once that message goes out, it stamps it in that officer's case notes. So she can see it went out, or he, but the probation on their end can also respond to the text message. Hey, sorry, I'll make my payment today, but I won't be at my appointment because I had a family member pass away. And that when they respond via text, it automatically stamps that text message in the case file, in the case notes of the system. The probation officer will get an email of that as well. So they will get it immediately. And that doesn't sound magical, but when I started in the probation industry, probation officers, and to some part still to this day, believe it or not, we're using paper files,
like last week,
paper, to make case notes. So to be able to automate things, even things like having to issue a warrant for somebody's arrest is important, because back in the day, if you'd violated your probation and I had to issue a warrant, then it was a 15 or 20-minute ordeal to do. Now, through the clicks of buttons and all the data that's already in the field, a probation officer can issue a warrant in less than 10. If it takes them more than 10 seconds, they're slow. But you can see, 10 seconds versus 15 or 20 minutes when you're supervising 300 people is very important, especially when it gives you that extra allotted time to spend with those cases that are, either more troublesome, a higher risk of reoffending, or a higher risk for the community.
Right.
How effective would you say that has been, Jarrett?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How effective would you say that's been for us ever since we implemented it? Like successful for the probation officer?
I can tell you from, experience, my first company, like I said, we ran probation offices in 270 cities. We monitored 100,000 probationers a month, over 600 judges and 500 probation officers that worked for us. And I always said our system made it probation officer proof. We caught things where it didn't allow them to make mistakes. And there's mistakes that can be made that can be very costly to a city or a county. There's a thing called a tolling order, where if you're on probation, let's say for 12 months, and at month 8 you violate your probation, and there's 4 months remaining, so we would freeze that time. So at the point you were arrested and come back and dealt with it, the judge has leeway to resentence you or put you in jail for that balance of 4 months. Well, dates can get complicated, and if you mess up the math on those tolling orders and you say, oh well, Your Honor, there's 4 months and 10 days left when there was only 4 months left.
Yeah.
Somebody spent another 10 days in jail.
Right.
Those are real civil rights violations. Those are real problems for the court, for the probation office, and everybody involved. So when you have a platform that can take those type of human mistakes out of it, it's better for everybody.
Certainly.
I mean, it's just as you're going through this, because a lot of people, they don't understand like what those tiny little mistakes could add up, and it's just, I keep hearing fair. It's more and more fair to everybody. It allows everybody to have a fair shake at what's happening in their lives, and because I'm sure a probation officer doesn't want to forget, or they don't want to make a mistake. But like to your point, if they have 200 to 300 people that they're responsible for, it's going to happen. And it's not, you're not following up on a sales lead and you forgot to close that deal. Like to your point, it might be that somebody spends 10 extra days in jail. That's insane.
Those are real problems.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to spend 1 day in jail.
that happen a lot. And like I said, you have a probationer that in our industry, we call frequent flyers. That are back and forth between violating, let's just say 3 or 4 times in 12 months. Now you got 3 or 4 tolling orders. You got that time from where the warrant was issued to when he was picked up could be 10 days on this one, 8 days on this one, 4 days on this one, 6 days on this one. And when you start putting all that together and saying he was on for 12 months and he's got 4 months left, and now we got all these days, it's a lot, and right. A mistake can happen real quick.
Yeah. Well, so the more I hear you guys talk about this, the more impressed I am, and the more that it's such an important platform, just to make sure, like, listen, if people need to pay their dues in time or money, I get that, but also to be fair and equitable as well. So on the probation side, is it a similar model to the traffic courts where you are taking the processing fee, and so you're making it easier to kind of implement a platform like this?
Yes, it's exactly the same model. If a government agency or a private agency comes to us, we license the software system to them for $0. We just ask that when they process payments, they do it through our system, whether it be, like I said, if you're on probation, you'll get text message reminders. If you are in a probation office, they have QR codes. You literally just scan the QR code with your phone. It takes you to your case and you make a payment without having to pull out a credit card or touch or anything like that. And the difference is, like I said, is, probation is way down the list of um, when it comes to funding in government. And, a lot of these software vendors who provide probation case management systems, charge anywhere between $1 and $3 per case per month. You have that a city that has 500 people on probation, and you're at $1,500 a month in software fees. That's real money for them.
Sure. And as we all know, every local government is well funded, and so they have lots of money to pull from. So no, I think it's phenomenal. And so if somebody starts off on the probation side, is it really easy for them to put the traffic, and vice versa? Is it the same platform that they're in the Judicial Innovation platform, and then they can just start adding on and bolting on for their community?
Yeah, they're in our world, I guess. They're definitely two different users,
Right.
like two different parts of that governmental agency that we would deal with for that. But it's all still within the same building.
Right. So what about in the future? Because I know you guys actually had some announcements. I saw. I won't spoil. I'll let you guys talk about that. But so we're talking about probation and traffic. I mean, are there other areas that you guys are looking to grow into and branch into?
Yeah, one other area, and I learned this from working in a sheriff's office for a very long time, is
Our details.
off-duty management of officers when, many police officers unfortunately have to work extra jobs to make ends meet. But when in doing that, it puts a burden on most agencies, because there's a lot of management that has to go into that. How many hours are they working in off duty versus full time, so we don't risk that them getting hurt or hurting somebody else on the job. What type of jobs are they working off duty and things like that. So we've partnered with a company called Power Details that has one of the most magnificent in 25 years of policing, I can say, one of the most incredible off-duty software packages out there to help police and sheriff agencies manage those extra jobs and make sure all the rules are being followed, and make it easier for that bar owner who needs an off-duty deputy at night to book those deputies. Where we come into play is starting an electronic payment process for them, where if a deputy works at that said bar that night, that bar owner would get electronic invoice from us. He'd pay it, and then we would electronically send the money out to all the different buckets, whether it be the officer, if the officer has to pay for use of the vehicle that night, things like that, or if a piece of it goes in a general fund for the government. Because at the end of the day, even if a police officer is working off duty, he's still what we call working under the color of law. So if something happens while he's off duty, the responsibility falls on that agency. So there's a lot that goes with it, but it's a very exciting partnership. It's near and dear to my heart from being in that world and knowing it. And back in my day, it would have been really nice to have a software product to help manage that at the agency I worked for.
So I'm going to make a assumption here. Is it the same pricing mechanism too? So they could, as long as it's payment processed through, that you get that you have this off-duty platform for the officers?
Yeah. So how they charge Power Details, the agency, is different. For us, it's a little different model where we're just processing the payment. So, the bar owner would pay a fee if he used, a credit card to pay it, or ACH, and then we send the money where it needs to be. So as far as the fees for the platform itself for the agency, that's not our wheelhouse. That's between Power Details and the agency.
Sure. So within Power Details, does somebody have the ability to, like that bar owner has the ability to go see if there's somebody available for them to use as well? And so is it like a roster that they can choose from?
Not so much, they put in their request, and then the system sends that request out to officers who say I'm available on Thursday and Fridays,
It's like Uber.
get off.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is like, I got to give these guys, 20 plus years in law enforcement is one of the slickest systems I've ever seen.
It sounds
Right at your
incredible.
fingertips.
Yeah. That's so well, okay. So there's that. And then there was some other big news of some partnerships that you guys have that just happened. We're recording this podcast on March 11th. So I saw it roll through my feed earlier this week. So talk to me about that and what it means for you guys.
Yeah, so we recently announced this week a partnership with a company called Courtware, which has rebranded itself to Justice One. They're probably one of the oldest, most long-standing, reputable court case management system companies here in the South in Georgia. They're really a crown jewel when it comes to that segment of, and basically they're providing court systems what I'm providing probation offices. They're providing case management for the courts to manage those cases as they come through.
Right.
So our partnership with them is licensing our online tools, our probation tools, and becoming their processor. They're in 280 plus courts. And like I said, it truly is a crown jewel for us and anybody else, just because they truly are one of the most respected companies in the industry.
Right. Well, and so you talk about them being kind of a really well known in the Atlanta and the Georgia area. So, and I know that you guys have done it a lot. I've seen where you guys, your territory, where you guys are operating today, and some of the systems that you're working with. I mean, what's your goal? Is your goal just to be kind of, the gold standard in the Southeast, or you guys have national aspirations to kind of help the entire country with this platform?
That goes back to, my dad always told me, if I had a wheelbarrow full of money, what would I do with it?
Yeah.
And luckily, I'm one of those. We've built this business where I'm very proud that it hasn't been a ton of investment. We're not losing money. So we've built it as we've grown it. I'm a firm believer. The easiest dollar you'll ever make is the one you don't spend, and that's how I've operated it from the beginning. So yes, there's always aspirations to go beyond Georgia and Florida and our surrounding area, but that takes money, and depending on how aggressive you want to be, it may take a little money or a lot of money.
Right.
So we're just taking those steps day by day. We're happy that we're serving the community that we love and live in, and we're expanding it on our own dime without, building a big hole of debt.
Yeah, right. No, I hear you.
far.
I just, the amount of people that listen to us and that we're connected to is a very national footprint. So I'm sure there's somebody that's in, Oklahoma right now or Washington State, and they're like, these guys seem really great, but they're never going to get here. Or they might be in Maryland. Yeah, exactly. So,
the nice thing is, the platform is so easy to the degree, it doesn't matter where they are. We can do the job. For me, I was more focused on like, what, somebody calls us, we can handle it. It's just, where do we want to put our marketing dollars? But certainly that person from Oklahoma calls, once we get them set up, for lack of a better word, it's almost auto magic.
Right.
Everything happens.
Right. So there's not a court system or a state or a jurisdiction that you guys can't work with. You guys are limited by how much gas do you want to actually pour on this.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as finding them, if they find us, great.
Right. Yeah. Well, because I see that you guys have been staffing up. So you're putting more people in place to kind of go out there, not only to help your clients that you have now, but also to probably find new ones and to kind of support the growth. And so, I've been watching what you guys are doing. And so I'm sure you guys are going to be continuing to expand. So I know you guys made a couple of key new hires. I didn't know if you wanted to shout any of them out and embarrass them at all.
No, I'll leave. They're good at embarrassing themselves, but we are, we are proud of the staff. We've done a whole lot with very few people. Everybody has operated efficiently, but yes, our new hires are strategic and they have worked in the industry for a very long time. They're well respected within the industry, and they're a big key to. We have a lot of work to do, and they're a big key to helping manage that work.
Yeah. Well, the company, my day job outside of the podcast, we operate the same way. So the owner has a very similar philosophy, and it's sometimes it's hard to keep up with the demand, and so we like to be very strategic in what we're doing as well. So I definitely appreciate kind of the success you guys are having. And I know some of the pain of making some of those harder decisions, because I know that, especially going back to the probation and the traffic stuff that we're talking about, you want to make sure that you're delivering the best platform for these communities and for these people, because if something does go wrong, if things aren't right, then I mean, lives are impacted in a pretty major way.
Certainly.
Yeah. So, we've gone through a lot, and I'm sure that I've missed all sorts of great things that you guys are probably doing. Is there something else that people should know about what you guys are doing or what you guys are doing next?
Well, we're not sure about next. There's a lot now that we have to do, and to be successful, and successful to us is keeping the customer and the courts happy. So I'm not sure what next is, just because right now is a full plate, but we're excited that we got some platforms that are helpful to governments and helpful to cities and counties. And in fact, we got a big shout out not too long ago from Clark Howard, who, if you've lived in Atlanta, you know who Clark Howard is, who,
Clark Smart.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who mentioned us one day on the radio, and he said it best. He said, "I hope if this works, that every city will adapt this." So that's what we hope. We hope every city adapts this traffic resolution problem, because it does. It will make their life easier, and it will make the citizens they serve life easier.
Yeah. The running joke. So every year I make New Year's resolutions like everybody else, but usually my New Year's resolution boils down to Clark Howard's tagline. I said, I want to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off. And my wife's like, okay, yes, of course. Now you got to make real ones. So we're big fans. My brother used to work at WSB back in the day. I've got friends over there. So I definitely miss Atlanta. So, but that's awesome. So, let's go back one quick step. If somebody, I know you guys are being strategic and you guys are being purposeful on your kind of the direction, but if somebody did want to talk with you, maybe help in your growth, maybe they wanted to come work for you, what type of people are you looking for in the short term, and what would be the best way to get in touch with you if they said, hey, listen, let's just stay in touch, and they want to talk to you about helping propel you guys forward?
I think, people, I look for, I don't want to say marketing people. I look for relationship people, and court systems is just that. You need people who've built relationships and maintain relationships with clerks, and there's a lot of people serving a lot of different needs for courts and police departments, things like that. And once the sale happens, they never hear from them again. I look for people who have nurtured those relationships and stayed with those relationships, and no matter what they're selling today, that clerk would open the door and listen to what they had to pitch. So I would say, I'm looking for people who have that. I don't want a sales guy. I want a relationship guy.
Sure.
And I would say, if you are that person, reaching out via the website or
any social media platform,
social media,
we're everywhere.
Yeah, or email me directly is fine as well.
Right. Well, so for those of you guys, oh, sorry, Pat, go ahead.
Real quick, I just want to say, we are in a lot of things, and we have our base software and our base idea and all the experience combined together. But we are still in a lot of things. Like we're in DUI court, schools as well, processing payments for them. Really trying to branch ourselves in any judicial avenue that we can get our hands in and on, and experience in those fields, and really bring our judicial innovations to them as well, and really affect everybody efficiently.
Yeah. Well, I hope that I don't have to come across you guys in my personal life, but if I do, I'm going to look forward to it. But for
Better than going to the courthouse.
Absolutely. Listen, I've been to a few. I'll say I've been to the Gwinnett County Courthouse more than I'd like to care to admit. It's been a long time since I've been there, but I'm very, very familiar. But but for everybody that's listening or watching right now, what I'll do is we'll put a link to Jarrett, to Pat, to Judicial Innovations website, to LinkedIn, so you guys can go and read more, because there's no way that we can possibly do what you guys are doing justice. That wasn't a bad pun, but I guess it can on this podcast. But because I'm super proud of what you guys are doing, and I'm glad that you guys took time to be on my small little podcast here, and especially since you guys are in Atlanta, I got a soft spot in my heart for you guys. But
Thank you.
so with that being said, thank you guys for taking time, and thank you for spending your time with me, and for everybody else that's listening, thank you for taking time. Jarrett and Pat, thank you for being on the GovTech Advisors podcast, and we'll see you guys next time.
Appreciate you having us.